Have you ever wondered what it takes to conquer the world? Not just in a game, but for real. One man did it, or came closer than anyone else, all before his 33rd birthday. His name was Alexander, and they called him the Great for a reason. His story isn't just about battles and conquests. It's a tale of ambition, genius, and a vision that literally changed the map of the ancient world. So, how did a young king from a small Greek kingdom become the master of the largest empire the world had ever seen? Let's dive into the epic life of Alexander the Great. Our story begins in 356 BC in Macedon, a kingdom on the northern edge of ancient Greece. Alexander wasn't born into an ordinary royal family. His father was Philip II, a brilliant and ruthless military strategist who transformed Macedon from a backwater region into a dominant military power. His mother was Olympias, a fiery and devout princess from a neighboring kingdom, who told Alexander he was descended from heroes like Achilles and Heracles. From day one, Alexander was raised to believe he was destined for greatness. And his education? It was second to none. His tutor was none other than the great philosopher Aristotle. For 3 years, Aristotle taught Alexander everything from philosophy and politics to medicine and biology. This wasn't just about book smarts. Aristotle instilled in him a deep curiosity about the world, a thirst for knowledge that would drive him to explore as much as to conquer. In 336 BC, tragedy struck. Alexander's father, Philip II, was assassinated, thrusting the 20-year-old Alexander onto the throne. Many of the Greek city-states and northern tribes, who had been forcibly united by Philip, saw this as their chance to rebel. They thought a young, inexperienced king would be easy to defeat. They were wrong. Alexander moved with lightning speed. He marched his army south, crushing the rebellion in Thebes, so decisively destroying the city and selling its people into slavery that the rest of Greece quickly fell in line. He showed them he was not just his father's son. He was a force to be reckoned with. With his Greek backyard secured, Alexander turned his eyes to the east, to the ultimate prize his father had dreamed of conquering, the mighty Persian Empire. The Persian Empire was the superpower of its day. It stretched from modern-day Turkey all the way to India. It was vast, wealthy, and commanded an army that dwarfed Alexander's. In 334 BC, with an army of about 40,000 Macedonians and Greeks, Alexander crossed into Asia. It was a gamble of epic proportions. His first major test was the Battle of the Granicus River. The Persians had set up a strong defensive position on the opposite bank. Any conventional general would have hesitated, but Alexander was anything but conventional. He led the charge himself, plunging his cavalry straight into the enemy lines. It was a chaotic, bloody fight, but Alexander's audacity and the discipline of his Macedonian phalanx won the day. This victory sent a shockwave across the Persian Empire. This young upstart from Macedon was for real. The Persian king Darius III now knew he had a serious problem. He gathered a massive army to crush Alexander at the Battle of Issus. Darius outnumbered Alexander almost 2-1 and chose a narrow battlefield, thinking it would neutralize Alexander's superior tactics. But Alexander was a master of terrain. He spotted a weakness in the Persian line and once again led a decisive cavalry charge aimed directly at Darius himself. Seeing Alexander and his elite cavalry crashing towards him, Darius panicked. He fled the battlefield and his entire army collapsed. It was a stunning victory. Alexander captured the Persian royal camp, including Darius's mother, wife, and daughters. But instead of treating them as prisoners, he treated them with the respect due to royalty, a move that earned him a reputation for chivalry. After Issus, Alexander didn't chase Darius immediately. Instead, he made a strategic move to secure the entire Mediterranean coast. This led him to the legendary island city of Tyre. Tyre thought it was impregnable, a fortress surrounded by the sea. They refused to surrender. For 7 long months, Alexander besieged the city. His solution was audacious. If he couldn't get to the island, he would bring the land to the island. He ordered his engineers to build a massive causeway, a land bridge all the way to the city walls. Under constant attack, his men built this incredible structure. Once it was complete, his siege towers rolled across and Tyre fell. This incredible feat of engineering showed the world that nothing, not even the sea itself, could stand in Alexander's way. From there, he marched into Egypt, where he was welcomed not as a conqueror, but as a liberator from Persian rule. The Egyptians declared him a pharaoh and a living god. And there, at the mouth of the Nile, he founded the first and most famous of many cities he would name after himself, Alexandria. With the entire western half of the Persian Empire under his control, it was time for the final showdown with Darius III. The two armies met at Gaugamela, on a wide, open plain that Darius had specifically chosen to give his huge army, especially his scythed chariots, the advantage. This was it, the battle for the world. Darius had hundreds of thousands of soldiers. Alexander was still massively outnumbered. But Alexander was a tactical genius. He used a strategy that is still studied in military academies today. He advanced his army in an oblique formation, drawing the Persian cavalry out to the flanks. This created a gap in the center of the Persian line. Just as he did at Issus, Alexander seized the moment, leading his companion cavalry in a wedge formation straight through the gap, heading directly for Darius. And just like at Issus, Darius fled. The battle turned into a rout. The Persian army was shattered, and the road to Babylon, Susa, and Persepolis, the great capitals of Persia, lay open. Alexander marched into Babylon as a triumphant king. He was now the master of Persia. He could have stopped there. He was richer and more powerful than any man in history. He had avenged Greece and fulfilled his father's dream. But Alexander's ambition knew no bounds. It wasn't just about conquering. It was about exploring, about reaching the very ends of the earth. He pushed his army further east into what is now Afghanistan and Central Asia, facing grueling terrain and fierce guerrilla warfare. His men were growing weary. They had been marching and fighting for years, thousands of miles from home. They wanted to enjoy the spoils of their victory, but Alexander pushed on. His drive led him all the way to India. At the Battle of the Hydaspes River, he faced his most challenging opponent yet, King Paris and his army of war elephants. The Macedonians had never faced elephants in battle before, and they were terrified. The battle was Alexander's costliest and most brutal, but once again, his tactical brilliance won out. He outflanked Porus's army, and despite the terrifying elephants, managed to secure a hard-fought victory. He was so impressed by Porus's courage that he allowed him to keep his kingdom, making him an ally. But this battle was a turning point. After years of endless campaigning, his army had finally had enough. When Alexander announced his intention to march further to the Ganges River, his men mutinied. They refused to go any further. For the first and only time, Alexander had to back down. Heartbroken, he agreed to turn back. The journey home was a disaster. Alexander split his forces, leading one contingent himself through the brutal Gedrosian desert. Thousands of his soldiers, and the civilians following the army, died of heat and thirst. It was a tragic end to his eastern campaign. When he finally returned to Persia, he found his empire in disarray, with corrupt governors and disorder. He worked tirelessly to consolidate his vast new kingdom. He encouraged his Macedonian officers to marry Persian noblewomen, even holding a mass wedding ceremony. He himself took a Persian wife, Roxana. His vision was not just of a conquered world, but of a blended one of fusion of Greek and Persian cultures. This Hellenistic culture would shape a vast region for centuries. But Alexander would never see his vision fully realized. In 323 BC, in the palace of Nebuchadnezzar II in Babylon, Alexander fell ill after a long banquet. After 12 days of suffering from a fever, he died. He was just 32 years old. The cause of his death remains one of history's great mysteries. Was it poison? Malaria? Typhoid fever? We may never know. On his deathbed, when his generals asked him to whom he left his empire, he is said to have whispered, "To the strongest." This answer plunged his empire into 50 years of civil war, as his generals, the Diadochi, fought to carve up the world he had conquered. Alexander the Great's legacy is immeasurable. In just over a decade, he redrew the map of the ancient world. His conquests spread Greek language, culture, and thought across a vast area, creating a new Hellenistic civilization that would last for centuries and influence everything from art and science to religion and government. He was a military genius, undefeated in battle. He was a visionary who dreamed of a unified world. He was a complex, contradictory figure, both a brilliant, enlightened ruler and a ruthless conqueror. His story is a powerful reminder of how one person's ambition and vision can change the course of history forever. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this journey into the life of one of history's most fascinating figures, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the past. Let me know in the comments who you'd like to see me cover next. See you in the next video.